Good afternoon and welcome to Fur, Fins, and Feathers. This is our 67th episode, and today we have Officer Hague from Somerset who brought his wonderful new companion, Raider, a charming black Labrador who is hiding over here, but he'll be over in a minute.
Come over here.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. Glad to be here.
We're very, very glad to have you, and we're going to learn about this dog and all the great things that you do in the Somerset schools. How did you get involved?
So 2 years ago, I was kind of looking online, and I had seen something on a local news channel out of Boston. So they were talking about comfort dogs, and they mentioned this breeder that was out of New Hampshire. And it was Boonfield Labradors out of Ringe, New Hampshire.
Okay.
I kind of did a little segment on that, and it kind of caught my eye. So I did a little research on it. I approached the superintendent and kind of mentioned it to him. And that was 2 years ago. And he was kind of like, oh, yeah, it sounds like a good idea. And it kind of never really took off from there. So last year, with that COVID and everything, I kind of looked back into it again just to see. And he was like, I'm 100% for it. I think it would be a great thing. For the kids, because with how COVID has been.
Things have certainly changed in the last couple of years.
Yep. So with everything that's going on with the mental health and kids just trying to get it back into school and everything, I said, you know what, I'm gonna go for it again. So I pitched it to the superintendent, and he was like, I'm 110% on board. And then from there, I went to the chief and the captain, and I kind of pitched it to them, and they approved it. And here we are. So then what I do is, from that point, I had to contact Boonfield Labradors, and I spoke to Peggy and Dave. They're the owners. Come here. They're the owners of Boonfield, and what they do is they donate the dog for 100% for free. So they give you the dog for free, and he goes through training. So we got the training donated. And
now, where is Raider trained?
So I have this girl named Jess who's out of Warren, Rhode Island. She does. She's a master trainer, and her training place is called Petrichor Canine. And she comes down like every 2 weeks. We do like a good hour and a half of training, and then she gives me a list and says, "All right, this is what I want you to work on." And then it's basically like I take them home, we work on it. My daughter's pretty good for helping me out. She's 11 years old, and she's taught him a lot more things. She was the one who taught him how to go up and down the stairs. So what's the matter? So so she gives me a list, and then when she comes back the following week or so, we go back over the stuff that we've gone over. Oh, it's okay.
He's a very handsome lab.
Yeah, he's a good boy. He's 14 weeks old. I got him when he was 8. Hey. I got him when he was 8 weeks old.
And he lives with you at
Correct.
night at home.
Yep. So we had the cruiser outfitted for a canine setup, and he has his own little kennel back there, and he goes home with me at night, and he spends with my wife and my daughter, and every morning, because he's a puppy right now, I don't take him to school like all day long because I want him to still, relax.
Of course.
Yeah, get that rest that he needs. So like today, I picked him up at about 12:30. He stayed home with my wife, kind of just chilled out and relaxed. And then from that point, he spent the day at the middle school. He's got his own. As soon as he comes in, it's like bringing Tom Brady into the school. All the kids want to see him. All the kids want to pet him. And it's not only the kids, it's the staff. And I tell people, you don't believe it till you see it. I didn't really believe it till everybody talked about, these dogs are unbelievable. You should see what they do for the kids. And then now that I see it firsthand.
What do they do for the kids?
So I've had kids at the middle school. So we have some kids that, they get dropped off by their parents. They have some behavioral issues. They don't want to get out of the car. They don't want to come into the school. They don't want to show up to school. So I've had him out there, and they've seen him, and I said, if you want to go into the school, I'll be glad to let you walk him in. So they come at that point, they come right out of the car, and they go right into the school. So it's things like that It's just the mere of him presence being there is what helps him.
He's going through the puppy stages.
Oh yeah, he loves to nip on everything. That's why I brought some of his toys, but he doesn't seem to be interested. It's just chewing on my hand. Shh, you good boy. Oh, you good boy.
Now, as a police officer, you have, particularly the last couple of years, you have seen some radical and abrupt changes
Correct.
in the way people react
Correct.
to everyday living
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah. I mean, who would have ever thought we'd see comfort dogs in the schools, So, I mean, with everything, some people, they don't believe in it, but it's like I said, you got to see him in action. It's like the new up and coming thing. I mean, I think before you know it, we just went to a conference last week, and there were about 10 total dogs there, and there was about 400 SROs from Massachusetts. And I had more and more people coming up to me asking what the process was that I went through just to get him. And some local communities are already exploring the possibility. So I think it's just going to keep snowballing from here. And before you know it, I think you're going to see a lot more in the schools. Because the closest ones to here are, Bristol has one from the same breeder. East Providence,
Bristol,
Rhode Island. Yep, they have Brody. He's from the same breeder. He's a little bit older. He's a chocolate lab. And then East Providence just got Marty, and Marty is basically it would pretty much be his cousin. They were born at the same time, just different mothers.
Okay.
Yep. Hey.
Is there one particular, you've done a lot of extensive research. Is there one particular breed that's better suited?
The most of what I see is the English lab. So he's an English lab. So the difference between the English lab and the like a normal lab is he'll have a big blocky head versus the long snout. So it seems that these labs are just bred for it. So she had total of 20 dogs on this between two mothers on the last one. So she handpicks, she watches them for a good 8 weeks, and then right before she's ready to, dish them out, she comes up with the top 3. This is Peggy, the owner of Boonfield, and she presented us with 3 of them and said, "You have first pick." And then I took this little guy. But just his demeanor, I mean, people in the schools I have a puppy, and he or she's much more rambunctious than he is. So you can already see it in him.
So he is very well suited.
Oh yeah.
To work with the children.
Correct.
Now, what grades do you work with?
So I cover the K through 8. So I'm in the 3 elementary schools, and I cover the middle school, and the kids just love him. I mean, he sees, if he hears a group of kids in the gymnasium, he'll run down to the gym, and then if I let him off the leash, he just runs around and chases all the kids. But even in classrooms, all he wants to do is just go in there and have the kids pet him.
Has anybody noticed, the adults noticed, any changes with him coming into school?
Oh yeah.
In the behavior, the demeanor of the kids?
Yeah. They, not only the kids, the staff is I feel so much better. I mean, I've had staff in the schools just lay on the floor with them. Just get on the floor and lay down with them. And they're like, you know what? I feel so much better now than I did when I came in. Hey, come here.
So what's a typical day for you as a police officer?
So typical day for us is he comes to work with me. We start out at the middle school, and then we venture off to some of the other schools. Just walk them around the hallways. Kids get to pet them. Sometimes we get called for certain situations where they're like, "Hey, this kid's having a really tough time today. Can you bring him down to guidance?" So he comes down to guidance, and I've seen it 3 or 4 times already, where he.
That's all right.
Where these kids don't want to go back they don't want to go back into the classroom, but they spend 5 minutes with him, and it's like this, they change, and they're like, "I'm ready to go back to the classroom." It's unbelievable.
I work on Sunday nights at St. John of God at church, and I said, we've got a show coming up, and I said, we're going to have Raider come in and visit, and the kids smiled, and they all they all had Raider stories that they wanted to share with me. And they talked about how good. They love him.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. So he has an Instagram account where he has hey, leave it alone. Where he has almost as of today there was 990 followers, and that's just in, let's see, we started it the end of August. So he's almost got 1,000 followers, and it ranges from people all over the United States to mostly like once a week. I try it once a week because the superintendent was big on it. Was bringing him to the high school. Now
I was going to ask you about that.
No, I don't cover the high school, but there's another SRO there, and we get along really good. So the superintendent did ask me to bring him over there, and we can't even make it past the first floor. He goes on the first floor. He barks like one little bark, and all the kids come out of the classroom like crazy. So it's a lot of it's crazy. I can't really describe it until you see it.
So what's his longevity? They're a very healthy breed.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, he'll be with me. So I'm going on my 19th year with the Somerset Police Department. So I still got a little bit of ways to go. So as long as he stays healthy, he'll be with me every day. But it's just gonna get through this little puppy phase, huh? Yeah, you're a good boy.
Is there any color, of the three, whether they're yellow or chocolate or black, any preference?
So when we were looking into it, we were like, oh, we hope we get a black lab. And sure enough, because the ones that were born there were a lot of black labs and a couple brown ones, two yellows, and that was it. But it was like a roll of the dice, but we just got lucky and we ended up with a black lab, and that's really what we were looking for. Come here.
Now, what about his training? Talk about his training.
So far we've done a lot of training of just he starts out, gets his good citizenship.
When that comes,
yeah, actually he starts out by getting just his normal like puppy, sit, lay down type of things, and then it goes to the good citizenship, and then the final after a year he can get his his Alliance of Therapy Dog certificate, where he's going to go pass all the course that they offer.
And he could go into nursing homes.
Correct. Yep.
And hospitals and things like that.
Yeah. So the big thing was right from the start was get him in the schools, because that's all part of it, and get him used to everybody. Hey, what's the matter?
Have you ever encountered kids that don't like dogs?
No. The funny thing is before, to kind of like put it out there in the beginning, I had the dog from Bristol come down, and Mass State Police have one. They have two from the same breeder. So I had them bring their dogs into the elementary schools, and it was just crazy that we'd go into every classroom, and the kids, I'd say like 3/4 of the classrooms, the kids would be like, I have a dog, I have a dog, I have a dog. And you wouldn't normally hear that. And even now, there's like maybe one out of every like 3 classes where like one kid doesn't want to pet them. And I always go in, before I go into the class, I say, does anybody have any allergies to dogs? Because I don't want to put those kids at risk either. But the thing is, even if they have an allergy, all they have to do is wash their hands afterwards, and they'll be fine.
I actually had a kid the other night say to me, I didn't think that he says, my family doesn't have a dog. And he says, I was a little skeptical. He said about meeting Radar.
Oh, really?
He said, he says, we really bonded. He said, now my friends love him. He said they really, they think he's a real fun dog.
So we had one kid in a program at the middle school. We were outside, and mom told me that he was deathly afraid of dogs his entire life. Now I think he's in 8th grade now. And he was a little skittish at first to pet him. But mom caught me outside about 2 weeks ago, and she rolled the window down. She says, I just want you to know that he's been deathly afraid of dogs his entire life. And now, meeting Raider, he's no longer afraid of dogs. So it's, like I said, it's...
So it was good, positive conditioning.
Everything's good, positive stuff. I mean, I was talking to my captain today, and he was mentioning about... I was talking about Raider, and he was like, oh, yeah, he's like, I get calls all the time, people asking about him. Can he come here? Can he come there? But it's just like I told you. Like I tell people, you gotta believe it to see it. Give me a paw. Good boy. This paw. Hey, give me this paw. Good boy.
Now
Lay
he's
down.
making public appearances.
Yeah,
different
now he's on your
places.
TV. First TV show right here. And then he's at the Somerset Library tonight for book reading. And
Who's
then-
reading the book?
I don't know. They haven't told me that one
Okay,
yet. So
so you don't have to read you don't have to read the book.
I hope not, because I don't know how he's gonna be. He's still a puppy, so he's. When I first got him, when he was like maybe like from 8 to 10 weeks, his big thing was he would go for an hour, sleep for like 3. But now that he's getting closer, now he's at 14 weeks. His big thing now is he goes for like 5 or 6 hours, maybe not that many, and then crashes. So now he's like constantly wants to keep going.
How was he at night?
At night he's good. So we started out, my trainer said, the best thing to do is to feed him in his crate and then crate him at night. So he sleeps right on the side of our bed and he goes right into the crate, close the door, and he, in the beginning it was tough because you know how it is with dogs. They whine, cry like a baby, and then you almost want to take him out, but they say don't do it. So now he's at the point where he sleeps all night. Every now and then he'll want to get up at like 4 o'clock ish, but he knows he has to go to the bathroom. So then he goes outside, then he comes back in. He goes right back in. So he's a good boy. Ah, you good boy? Yeah, you good boy.
I'm looking at yes. I'm looking from a confirmation standpoint at that beautiful head.
Oh, yeah.
He has a very beautifully well chiseled head. He's a good breeding.
Yeah, actually his mom is a comfort dog in Bedford, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where I went to school, yeah.
Oh, really? Yep. She's in Bedford, New Hampshire, so it's in his bloodline. We got lucky when we picked him, and then it was 2 days later, we got a message from her saying, that's one of, it's Mishka, that's one of Mishka's babies. And we were to the moon because we were oh, we picked the right one.
Could you address the topic of comfort dogs?
So
Why
basically,
are they different?
so with a comfort dog, so he can't technically he's not like your normal service dog where he can go in to if we weren't working oh, let me bring him into a restaurant. That's not what he's there to do, and that's not his job, and he's not certified in that type of thing. So his basic thing with a comfort dog is just to provide comfort for students and staff that are having either a bad day or just they might be having a good day, but they just need that little extra comfort to come over and pet them and say, what, now I'm going to really have a good day. And that's what I see all the time now. The kids will come up to him, pet him like this. Even if it's 2 minutes, they're like, I feel so much better now. And if he's not there, they're constantly asking me, where's Raider? Where's Raider? Where's Raider? Why don't you have him today? Why isn't he here? He's almost like a celebrity. What's the matter? So then he's got
But
this.
he does bring comfort.
Oh, yeah. Yep. For sure.
Unfortunately, we've had a lot of people in the community who have lost family members because of COVID and other things. And it's very difficult for kids.
Yeah, that's.
So I'm sure that he brings a great deal of comfort and love to the kids.
Oh, for sure. So once he then once he gets certified in about a year, there's the Somerset, Swansea, a lot of the Bristol County agencies are part of SEMLEC, it's called, Southeastern Massachusetts Law Enforcement. So they have it's called a CISM team, which like a crisis management team. So if an officer dies or say there's a big death at the school or something, but it's mostly for police, they can come in, he can be part of that team. And that's a goal that I have set for him, is to become that part of that team. I don't know if SEMLEC has any on their team yet, but even in the high school the last few years, they've had a lot of deaths with kids getting into accidents and stuff.
Even in Swansea here.
Yeah. So we hope to be a resource for that, down the line, because it's definitely something that's needed. Huh.
How does he work now with the little kids? The little kids
Yeah.
must really love
Oh
him.
yeah, so we went to a kindergarten class. Let's see, what's today? We went to kindergarten class on Friday, and they were to the moon. It was unbelievable. The kids were coming right up to him, and I kind of said, because he's just still a baby now. I kind of like tell them, don't get too close to him, because with the kid, with when you bump up to like middle school and high school, they kind of know the difference. They're like, oh, they don't get too close. Like they don't put their face right up against them. So in the kindergarten class, I make them all just sit around the rug, and then he kind of just sits in the middle. And then one at a time, I say, come up and pet him. And he's good. He just sits there. They come up, they pet him. It's just his new thing now is he wants to keep going and going and going. This is what he does at the school. Not so much bark, but he wants to just keep going, going, going. Where before he'd go for, like I said, go for an hour and then sleep for like 4. But it's definitely my job's gotten a lot busier with him.
How many students do you work with? Now you are K through
8, so I've got 4 schools. So, God, it's got to be maybe a couple thousand, maybe pretty close to that. Because every elementary school has K through 5. Some have the preschool, and then just at the middle school, and then when we bump over to the high school, that's 1,000+ kids over there. So he's seeing kids all day long, and the staff too. And then now he's got, like with the Instagram, he's got his own trading card now that I gave you there.
Now this says
his own baseball card.
It's like and you hand these out to the
Yeah,
kids?
so I hand them out to the kids, and not every kid has them. So I ordered 500 just to kind of see how it went. And then, but I have kids coming up to me saying, "Hey, can I get one of those Raider cards? Because I saw so and so with one." Or even staff, they'll be like, "Hey, little Johnny had one of those cards. Can I get one?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem. I keep some in here." And sometimes I run out. And that was when I think he was right around maybe 9 weeks in that picture. So I'm figuring when he hits 6 months, I'll have another one made up. And then once he hits a year, because that'll be pretty much his end of growth, I'll have the 3rd card made up. So it'd be kind of like a collector's thing where if you got his first one, his second one, and his 3rd one. And then they also do the officer who's in charge of not in charge of the program, but he with Peggy and Dave, they've just gotten so busy with providing dogs to law enforcement that they put Brad McNamara, who's from Lunenburg PD, in kind of charge of the program. So if you're interested in getting a dog, you start out with him first, and then he reports back to them. And then he suggested that I get those because he has those for his dog Hank, and it's been like the greatest thing in the world. And then moving forward from that, he also, for Hank, he has like stuffed animals where it's like it has the badge, has a car.
So that could turn into a cottage
Crazy.
industry.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This is interesting.
Yeah, it's nuts. So he's got his own little. The other SRO gave me this little patch here. I did order some badges for him, and like a metal badge like this here. They just haven't come in yet. And then now he's just starting to wear his
Brendan,
collar.
how can people? This is a great thing, and I can see that this is going to take off, and we're going to have similar dogs in many other communities.
Yep.
I noticed that at Case, when we came down the hallway, that some of the staff reached out to him, and they said, "Oh, this is a good thing. Yeah. We should do this." How can people support your program in Somerset?
So with my program, if you want to make a donation, you would just send a donation to the town hall, and he has his own account, and it's labeled Comfort Dog, Somerset Comfort Dog. So he has his own account, and then if I need to buy things for him, I then submit the receipts to the department head within my police department, and then she submits the bills over there, and they take the funds out of there.
To pay for his
to pay for
expenses.
to pay for expenses like leashes, those cards, hopefully stuffed animals. We've gotten a lot of donations. We started out right around maybe like 3 weeks. We had like $4,000. It's dwindled down a little bit because I had to buy stuff here and there. and we do get a lot of support from the community. But you know, just to buy the fancy things like, you know, he's got his own collar with his name on it, you know, the leashes. It's nice to not have to keep tapping into other aspects that fund this program and have his own little thing, you know, so I can buy things like that. And maybe someday buy T-shirts and, you know, just more things that help support the program. It's all to benefit him. There's no benefit to me that the money doesn't pay for any of my overtime or anything like that, just strictly for this little guy. Well, not so much a little anymore, but it's all for him.
And for you have, what, you said over 2,000 students?
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty close to that altogether when you put everything together. I don't know the exact amount, but it's around there if you figure them all out.
So he is at a school practically every day.
Oh, yeah.
At
Yep.
some...
Yep.
And do you go from school to school?
Yes, yep. Bring him school to school and, you know, on top of dealing with the other aspects that I deal with on a normal basis.
What are some of the other things that you do as an SRO?
So I also help run a PAL program. So it's myself, Officer Wilkinson, and Officer Trenholm, where we, starting in November for 16 weeks, on the weekends we have just Somerset kids come and hang out with us and play basketball and things like that. On a normal basis, I mean, we're dealing with students that are, you know, could be out of control, students that are having a bad day, just making sure that the building's secure, providing the security. And the biggest thing is building a relationship with these kids. Because they don't really see, you know, all they see on TV is the bad things that happen. They don't really get that interaction with the police officer. And that's why it's key to keep SROs in schools, you know, because it builds that
How
relationship.
many SROs do you have in...
In Somerset, there's 2 of us.
2 of you?
Yeah, one at the high school and then just me that covers the K through 8.
Now, this is a new phenomenon for me.
Oh, yeah.
Now, do they have an SRO in Swansea?
Excuse me. They have Shane is here at the high school, and then they just hired a female. I don't know her name, but she's in the elementary schools.
Are they in, most schools in the area have an SRO?
Oh yeah, most schools in the area have SROs. So we have our own like SRO team, and we meet like once every so often. Our next meeting's coming up, and that's SROs from here all the way to Wareham, and then it goes from Wareham to I think it's East Bridgewater. So it covers that whole basin there of all SROs.
Well, this has been very interesting, and thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
It was really great, and we'll see him again. Now we've got to, before we wrap up, we have to announce that Raider will be at St. John of God this Saturday afternoon at noontime, and he will be participating in a pet blessing.
Correct.
And we'll see you then.
Definitely.
And thank you for coming again.
Thank you, Brian.
We'll see you again.
Good boy.